War 2 is an absolutely incredible game, and if you are a World War II strategy genre, you should rejoice. You're going to get a treat. But this game has one fatal flaw that left a very bitter taste in my mouth, and we're gonna talk about this in this video. But first, let's talk about what War 2 is, what it does right, and how it does it. War 2 is a World War II strategy game with a single player and multiplayer elements. However, how devs are actually explaining what this game is, it's more of a real-time tactics game. You don't have resource gathering in this game, you don't have building in this game. Entire game is actually a battle, and it is absolutely vicious. This is one of the most brutal and one of the most difficult strategy games that I've ever played, and it is insanely fun. But let's break down everything bit by bit. So the game actually consists of two main elements. It's a single player element and a multiplayer element. A single player element itself has 4 different playable modes, which consists of story, operations, conquest, and raids. And as you can understand from the first one, story mode is a narrative campaign of the game, and you have 3 of them for each of main factions: USSR, United States, and Germany. And each of them have their own narrative, their story, and their progression. And this is the first actual game mode that you should play. But game also has a separate learning mode, which is an actual first thing that you should play, because this game is very, very, very complex, and I'll tell you why. Everything in the battles of this game are extremely simulated, and it will be very reminiscent to any multiplayer game like Call of Duties or World of Tanks than any other strategy game. And let me explain why. In this game, every single unit can be controlled by you, and every single unit has their own health, has their own stats, and they behave differently in different stages. Like, for example, you can take direct control of any infantryman and fight with him like in third-person shooter. You can run, you can prone, you can crouch, you can get behind the covers, you can reload, you can throw grenades, you have limited ammunition, and every single infantry unit is doing exactly the same thing, but when you're not controlling it, AI is controlling it. And the same thing happened with the artillery units and the tanks. And if you take control of the tanks, this game feels very much alike World of Tanks, because damage models here are insane. Armor, penetration metrics, hitting angles, where you hit your enemies, the health of a crew, and it has extreme effects on a tank. For example, enemy can hit your trucks, disabling you from moving, or they can hit your tower, disabling you from actually moving your tower. Or they can hit your driver, well, killing a driver, or commander, killing a commander, or just gunner, disabling you completely. And all of those things are extremely well simulated. Also, you have your fuel supplies and your ammunition supplies that are going down pretty quickly, and you actually need to set up your supply lines and things like that, and the game is extremely complex. And that is actually one of the reasons why you need to go to the learning phase of the game before you're gonna hit anything single player in the multiplayer, because the game has extremely high amount of things that you can do. And I didn't even talk about the air units or paratroopers and things like that. But now let me try to explain it as simply as possible. In almost every mode you start, whether it's single player or multiplayer, you start with a certain amount of units. In some modes, you're choosing these units yourself before the game starts. In others, you are just given whatever the game is giving you, like for example in story mode. Additional units can be summoned through echelon system. Mainly you have 3 echelons, and each echelon have their own unit roster. And in any mode, you can summon 2 units at the same time from any echelon. And that's happening because of the supplies. Basically, the train is bringing you the certain amount of units at any time, and then it has a cooldown before it can bring you any more units. However, you're also limited by the certain amount of units that you can have at any moment in a battlefield. And every single unit has a certain amount of points that they can use. And the stronger and the heavier is the unit, the more points it consumes. That means that decreasing the amount of units on a battlefield that you can have. And this basically forces you to be very careful with every single unit you have. You cannot just throw everything in front of you to the mid grinder with the hopes that you can just call some more. Every single unit is extremely valuable in this game, and you need to take very good care of them. And every time you destroy a unit or enemy destroys your units, the respective side will be rewarded some victory points, and the side that will get the most victory points will win. But usually those victory points are rewarded on the destruction of the units. So for example, if one of your units will be damaged or will have a low ammo, you should just retire it, fix it, and resupply it, thus depriving the points from your enemies. By playing the game, you also gain some resources and some points, some XP points that you can use to unlock other units. And when you unlock these other units, in some game modes, you're actually allowed to build up your echelons in any way that you want. Game also has regiments, but regiments are basically different composition of different echelons. Like for example, artillery regiment, infantry regiment, or tank regiments. And they have their own respective units. Like infantry units, infantry regiments are focused on infantry units, and they have different modifiers for infantry units for all the infantry units that you have in your echelons. And the same for artillery and same for the tank regiments. And you have multiple regiments for each of them with all the different modifiers, allowing you to have different builds in your echelons, in your different playstyles that you have. And this also kind of like forces you to play with other people or with AI as well, because AI and other people will have different echelons, thus giving you more ways to work with each other to achieve victories. Don't get me wrong, this all sounds complex, because it is complex. I'm not gonna tell you that it's easy. It is quite difficult. It's not unattainable, but this game has quite steep learning curve, and you're gonna see it in the story missions, because some story missions are exceptionally difficult, even on the easiest difficulties. So you will need to learn quite a lot before you're gonna be effective in this game. Game has multiple different single player and multiplayer modes, and what you will realize as soon as you will start playing this game is that the game is more catered towards multiplayer than a single player, because single player feels exactly like what you would play in a multiplayer, but just playing against an AI, except for the story mode maybe, because story is just, well, story. And that gets to the one major flaw this game has. And judging for the previous thing that I said, you might understand what it is. Game is always online. Yes, even in a single player mode, you need to be online to play this. Yeah, it doesn't matter it's a story or conquest or raid or whatever it is, it needs to be online, because even single player matches are treated as a multiplayer matches. So if your internet is down and you want to just play around and just train for your next multiplayer match, you won't be able to do that. And that is an extremely big flaw if you'll ask me. And I understand that this will be a game breaker for many of you. I understand why it is done though, because you're getting a lot of different points and a lot of different XP that you in a single player that you can use in a multiplayer matches for purchasing different units and upgrading existing ones. And yeah, do you have a lot of different units in this game? You cannot even realize how many units that you can unlock in this game. And yeah, you can unlock most of them through a single player, and I think you can unlock even all of them through a single player. But not having any type of single player mode that does not require internet connection kind of feels weird, and I think that is a very big flaw, and it kind of goes against what most of RTSs and PC games are standing for. Future Nyxson here. Just one more thing that I got only after I recorded this video: the always online connection will be only required on launch. The offline mode is actually in development. However, we still don't know how long exactly it will take to develop and to actually roll out the offline mode at the moment. So everything that I said stands, but the devs actually promised offline mode in development, so we shall see when they will add. And when they will add this offline mode, I guess I will have to update my review to reflect that. But until then, everything that I said stands, but I still need to add this correction to not overlook this info. Thankfully, this is not a full $60 game. Game is available for the full price of $45. Yeah, if you're gonna overlook always online connection, this game has a lot of content that you can play through, and it will take a lot of time to learn everything. Plus, game does not have a single microtransaction, and devs also promised they will not have any in-game currency purchases. So we shall see. And by the way, if you like RTSs and strategy games, you could watch my 27 best strategy games list right here. And if you like PC games in general, you can watch another list right here as well. Oh yeah, and don't forget to subscribe right here as well. This is review for today, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Take care.